Will Adams.
What am I getting?
Oh, You're getting a swivel captain's chair.
After 60 years, you're going to let me sit down.
For those of you who don't know, Will joined the faculty in 1955 in the Department of Political Science, retired from that position in 1989, but has continued in his role teaching ballroom dance in the years since. So 60 years total. Thank you, Will.
Thank you. If I thought about it in time, I would have brought a phone book to represent the speech I was going to give. On many occasions during the last several years, I've been present when one or another group sang the William Jewell alma mater. Whenever they got to that line that goes, "We will love thee, serve thee forever," I couldn't help thinking to myself, boy, this sure feels like forever. When Eleanor and I first came to William Jewell back in the 1st century BC, we weren't here very long before someone solemnly informed us that there is no dancing on the William Jewell campus. Of course, it only took a few days after that to find out that there was dancing all around the William Jewell campus. I don't know what the rules are today, but in those days, whenever a student group gave a social event, they had to invite 2 faculty members as chaperones. So the students found out very quickly that Eleanor and I could dance up a storm, so we got plenty of invitations to do a dance. Now fast forward 18 and a half years to January 1974. That was the first time that the college offered a series of short courses, 3-week courses in January, known as winterings. There were a lot of students around campus taking winterings, but except for a few athletic events, there were absolutely no social life going on. So a couple of girls at Evans' house invited my wife and me to come over on that first Saturday night and, quote, show us a few of those neat dance steps that you know. I don't think it's still called Evans' house. I don't think they still house girls, but the house is still there. It's that white house on the northwest corner of College and Mississippi Street, right at the foot of the campus. That's only 3 or 4 blocks from our home. So 7 o'clock Saturday night, we were at Evans' house, and we found 7 girls ready to dance and no boys. They were undaunted, however. One of the girls got on the phone, started calling the boys' dorms at random, and in half an hour we had 7 girls and 7 boys. They kept us there till 1 a.m. I think that's the longest dance class Eleanor and I ever taught. They probably would have kept us longer, but as some of you may know, there was a time when colleges and universities felt they should lock up the girls every night at a time certain, and 1 a.m. Saturday was that time for that day. Of course, maybe some of you remember closing hours. Of course, that was only one facet of a broader idea that colleges and universities had a role to play even in the private lives of their students. I like to think of that role as that of a crazy parent. You know, in loco parentis. Whenever I'm among a group of academics, I'm always glad to see that at least some of us remember some Latin. Or was it Spanish? Anyway, the students asked us to come back the next Saturday, and thus began 2 years of 2 dance lessons every Saturday night, or whenever the school was in session. In the spring semester of 1975, a lot of our best dancers graduated. And by the way, that class will celebrate its 40-year anniversary next September. I hope to reconnect with some old friends then. The next fall we started up again, but interest declined, so in December we just stopped. However, the next month, January 1976, for the first time we offered a dance winterim. You see, we faculty did not have to offer winterims in our academic specialty. We could offer them in any field in which we thought we had some expertise. If I remember correctly, I think Rag Connect once offered one in bridge. We did 1 week of ballroom dancing, 1 week of square dancing, and 1 week of folk dancing. At the end of the 3 weeks, the kids put on a show in Brown Gymnasium. Yes, Brown Hall was once a gymnasium. I'm sure there's still an empty swimming pool on the world's floor somewhere. From then until I retired in the spring of 1989, retired from full-time work, we offered a dance with them at least once every 3 years, and occasionally every second year. Of course, we couldn't call it dance, you understand. That first dance with them in the bicentennial year of 1976, President Gordon Kingsley instructed us to call it Traditional American Folk Festivals. I guess that sounded patriotic and mysterious. A few years after our first dance winterim, the college started a major fundraising effort to build the Mabee Center, which, by the way, had a room called the dance room from the very beginning. We faculty were, of course, expected to kick in and donate to the fundraising drive, even those of us being paid less than grade school teachers with a BA degree. In due course, pledge cards appeared in our mailboxes, and I took mine home and discussed it with my wife. We filled ours out as follows. Total pledge, $500. With this card, $5. Balance, $495, payable on the day of the first dance on campus. Well, the gentleman in charge of the fundraising drive blew a stack at me. He bawled me out on one side and down the other. I don't remember what he said except for his concluding statement. After he raked me over the coals, he said, "If you don't like it here, why don't you go somewhere else?" Well, I had an answer for that. I replied, "Because I keep hoping to improve this place." Anyway, I'm still there and he isn't. Well, the money was raised, and Mabee Center was built, and I retired, and Gordon Kingsley resigned the presidency and defected to England, and the faculty abolished winter. Only those last two events have any causal connection.
No sooner was winterim abolished than Sylvia Nodler, athletic department chair, invited Eleanor and me to teach ballroom dance as an activity course in the PE department for 1 hour credit, and we were happy to oblige.
So, this was the situation in the decade of the 1990s. You couldn't dance on campus unless you got college credit for it. Or unless you were performing in a show on the chapel stage, such as Tatler Review, an annual student show, which we used to have to raise money to publish the yearbook we used to have. That's what you get when somebody who's been here this long. Or unless you were a professional dancer from New York or Moscow or Beijing or some such exotic place, and you were performing in the Harriman Fine Arts Series, which for the first many years occurred on the chapel stage, not over town. But you couldn't dance on campus, it was just for fun. Well, that situation was brought to a close by then President Chris Sizemore at the end of the 1990s, when he scheduled a dinner dance on the quadrangle. He rented 2 half-shell tents. I remember the flagpole sticking up between the 2 halves. And they were huge. They covered the entire quadrangle from the front of the chapel to the end of Jewell Hall. And at one end, he had them lay down the interlocking wood floor on top of the grass as the dance floor.
Oh, cool.
A couple of weeks before the appointed time, I went to him and I told him about my wife and my pledge. And of course, first thing he wanted to know was, is the pledge still valid? We said yes. So he said, well, bring the check to the dance. So the appointed day arrived. We went up to the quadrangle, had a good sit-down dinner, and when the band started to play, we joined a dozen or more other couples, dancing on the floor, on the grass, in the tent, on the quad, on the campus of the college. I think I put that to music, couldn't I? That was the end of the band on Dancing on Campus. But when the band took a break, Dr. Sizemore brought me up, and I told him about the pledge, and I pulled out the check, and I handed him a check for $495. But I didn't stop there. I noted that from the very beginning, Eleanor and I had heard rumors that the people who donated the funds to build Brown Hall had a condition attached that if dancing is ever held on campus, it should be burned down. So I reached in my pocket and I pulled out a book of matches. In less than half a minute, a lady was in front of us identifying herself as the granddaughter of the people who donated the funds for Brown Hall. She confirmed that that was, in fact, a condition of the donation. So, of course, I gave them matches. Last I heard, Brown Hall is still standing. About 2 weeks ago, I sent an email to Chris Sizemore telling him about this event, telling him I would be mentioning his name, and asked him if he could come. He wrote back and said he couldn't come, but there's something else he wanted me to know about that night. He said that a day or two after that on-campus dance, he got a phone call from a lady here in Liberty who had never had any contact with the college. She said that she never thought she'd see the day when there was dancing on the William Jewell campus. And she sent him a donation for $5,000. So I don't know what that dinner dance cost, but I do know it brought in $5,495. Anyway, about the same time, Eleanor said that she could not continue dancing with me. She was having some health problems with her feet. I wasn't ready to quit, obviously. And I discussed it with her, and with her permission, I called Paula Dobb, whom we both knew through the dance world. We knew that she already taught ballroom dancing at Maplewood and other places. And I told her the situation, and she agreed that if Eleanor couldn't teach her in the ball, she would do so. So, for 25 years, from 1974 to 99, my wife and I taught ballroom dancing at William Jewell under various headings and various disguises. Paul and I are now completing our 16th year of teaching ballroom dance here and elsewhere. It gives me pause sometimes when I stop to think that 10, 20, 30 years from now, probably nobody remembered it all. But if they do, I may be remembered more for ballroom dancing than for political science. If I am, that's perfectly okay with me. I'll take any kind of immortality I can get. Anyway, I'd like to thank Sylvia Nodler and Jim Redd and Darlene Bailey, the three department chairs under whom I have taught, and President Tom Field, who in the mid-70s smiled and turned a blind eye to our Saturday night dancing, some of which did take place on campus, and to President Gordon Kingsley for letting us teach traditional American folk festivals, and to President Sizemore and Salih for their support of our dance program. Dr. Salih, I'm especially grateful for, especially grateful for this recognition tonight. I do think I ought to give you one little caveat of that, is I hope you don't regard this as a going away present. I do intend to be back next fall. I think you can safely wait 2 or 3 years before you contemplate what a 65-year award might look like. Oh, I almost forgot the commercial. Our dance courses at William Jewell meet 10 Monday nights every semester, starting the 3rd Monday and ending the 12th Monday with a ball in the atrium of the Union downstairs, and they are open to faculty and staff. Thank you, dear friends. It's been a great ride.